I'm writing this into you because I just want to verify with somebody that I'm not actually crazy, that I did in fact see what I saw, and what I saw I can only describe as a lizard demon. Listen, I'm no crazy Bear Grylls kind of guy. I'm just a simple explorer who loves going into the Everglades. As you guessed it, I live in Florida, the Sunshine State. Like I said, I'm not a crazy outdoorsman or goes and hikes Mount Everest. I just am a simple outdoor enthusiast, and like I said, I love exploring the swamps and nature. I have had some weird things happen to me, but usually, nothing that couldn't be explained with simple logic and rationale. Well, I wish that could be applied to what happened to me in this encounter that I'm sending to you, because I've used every rationale and logic in the book, and nothing really makes sense. If you didn't know, the area, there are many lone roads that go into the Everglades, deep, where there's no construction or any development. These are kind of just lone, single two-lane roads that just are kind of in the middle of nowhere. And this is where I had my encounter. I can't remember exactly which road I was on, but all I can tell you is that I was surrounded on both sides by thick Everglades. At the time, I was driving down the road in the evening time, trying to find my way out to a major highway. I didn't have cell service at the time, and I was stuck out in the thick of the Everglades. And that's when something horrifying happened. Out of the swamp, or the Everglades, they're kind of the same thing. What I thought to be at the time was a person in a lizard costume stepping out. But that's until I spent a couple seconds looking at what stepped out, and I realized it was impossible for it to be a person at all. This thing, or being, was about 8 feet tall and had glowing yellow eyes. This thing looked utterly like it climbed out of the pits of hell. Slits for eyes just like a snake. It kind of had a tan-green coloring all over its scales, which wrapped over its entire body. It looked like if you combined or genetically spliced a human with a lizard. I'm not kidding. I know this sounds crazy, but that's the only way I know how to describe it. It had a very hideous grin on its face, like it was happy it found me, all alone, in my tiny Jeep Wrangler, exposed to the elements, that this thing could easily get me if it wanted to. What scared me the most is its stature. It stood upright perfectly, just like a man would. It didn't look hunched over at all, or like it was having a hard time. It had the legs and build, just like a man would, standing upright, except it was covered in scales. For a minute I kind of had to blink and think, am I in a Hollywood horror movie? Or is what I'm seeing real? This thing just stared at me and in my car for what felt like minutes. I've never been locked eyes with an animal like this before, assuming that's what it was. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 2 minutes, if I'm guessing, just turned around casually and walked back off into the swamps. I was so terrified that I was still frozen in my Jeep for a minute before I even floored it and got out of there, looking desperately for the highway, just trying to get some cell service so I can call somebody. Even though that terrified me, I still do go exploring today, especially in times of COVID, where everybody's on lockdown, and you're kind of restricted to what you can and can't do. I know many areas are off limits still, but that doesn't stop me. The area that this happened to me is an area I usually don't go through or drive in, but maybe that's why it happened. Maybe there's a reason that this happened to me, and it was meant to be. It's almost like I had a divine appointment with this creature. Even though it scared me terribly, it has only made me very cautious, but it has yet to take away my desires to go and explore the swamps and the Everglades of Florida in the south. I will continue to do so, but be on the lookout for things other than cougars and alligators. Wish me luck. Before I decided to sit down and write this out to you, I spent some time going through some of your videos on your channel, specifically the Wendigos and Skinwalkers playlist, and I was shocked to hear just how many Navajo have sent messages to you, telling them of their detailed encounters with these evil witches known as skinwalkers. Well, I do live in the same state, and although I don't live on the Navajo reservation, I am part Navajo, part Chippewa, and also have some Apache in me. I too have seen some stuff out here. After all, it's a barren wasteland, full of nothing. And in times like this, you get pretty bored pretty easily, and begin searching for things to do. My teenage years, I was a rascal. I spent a lot of times going to places I probably shouldn't, and I've had a numerous amount of encounters with not only skinwalkers, but spiritual encounters. Things that are hard to put down into words. And because of this, I feel like my third eye is opened, and I'm very acute and aware to the things around me that are above and beyond the normal. In fact, one of the scariest things I've ever seen, and only a few of us in the tribe that we know about, is what we call, at least I do, lizardmen. I don't know if lizardmen is the right term for them, but these are giant upright walking lizard that burrow themselves underneath the sands of the desert. I know it sounds crazy, but when you're out here, you see all sorts of things that shouldn't exist. Even skinwalkers, for example, but we have no control over them being around. I want to reiterate that there are skinwalkers out here, and many people who can shapeshift and practice magic. They're evil and just as scary, but these other beings, I don't even know what they are. Unlike skinwalkers, like I said, they burrow underneath the sands. How do I know this? Well, because I've seen it before with my own eyes. In fact, I've been attacked by one, and this thing almost killed me had I not prayed enough. Only a few other people in my close circle of native friends have ever seen these creatures, let alone had personal one-on-one encounters with them. They're just as scary, and like I said, they're much more violent. One time, I was out driving at nighttime, heading back home from a friend's, and was nearly chased off the road by one of these things. This thing caught up to my vehicle on the driver's side and literally jumped onto my door, trying to tear the door open. It caused me to veer off the road and nearly almost crashed my car, before I quickly regained control of my vehicle and was able to pull up faster than I ever have, going almost to 120 miles an hour, knocking this thing off my vehicle. I managed to get away in time, but it continued to pursue my vehicle, and kept chase for a while, keeping up right at speed with me, pushing 90 miles an hour just easily, right behind my car. These things are dangerous, and there's no telling what they can do, especially had it tore me out of my vehicle. I can't even begin to describe the power this thing possesses if it's able to keep up with the vehicle doing 90 miles an hour, if not faster. If you ever come out here to the desert, you need to be aware that these things exist, and not be scared, but just be conscientious that these things are out there, and that you need to respect them. Like I said before, I've had a few other people in my close circle of native friends that have had their own encounters with these things. Not near like what I had, where I was almost pulled out of the car, and God knows what would have happened to me. It probably would have eaten me whole. But the best way I can describe how they look is they are lizard men, down to the T. They walk upright just like a person does, but they are covered in scales, and almost kind of have a dinosaur quality to them. They have long tails, just like an alligator, and have long black claws. I'm surprised with how fast and powerful this thing was. It didn't rip the door off my crappy little car. Anyway, part of me wonders if there's a reason my elders and people in my tribe have not ever talked about it. Is it because they don't want us to know, the future generation? Or is it because that these things have been in hiding? Or maybe there's a much darker aspect to this whole thing, and that they're in cahoots with skinwalkers, and that possibly these are beings of evil, being controlled by skinwalkers. After all, skinwalkers are just people of magic who practice evil and dark things, so really there's no telling. I'm not exactly sure if these things are living underground or what, but right before this thing attacked me, off to the left of the road, I saw this thing burrow its way out of the sand and jump out and run at my vehicle. I can't express to you enough just how terrifying this whole experience was for me. Anyway, I don't want to waste your time, and I just want to tell you what I know. Just know that these things are part of the desert, and many other of my people and friends know these things exist. So if you're ever in the New Mexico, Arizona area, be very aware of your surroundings, and always, if you have to drive at night, always have plenty of lights and be looking around your vehicle constantly. There's no telling when these things will pop out and come at you.